We hate that. You already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Rules?
There are no rules.
What rules?
This is a revolution, damn it!
You'll hear things you've never heard before.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and what does everybody want? Well, we're not going to get that here. But you are going to get the Other Alliance Guys, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance, United Wrestling Network, and various independents around the world. My name's Tim. This is Dave, and we didn't even speak before the show. Dave, you look tired, man. You look really tired.
Yeah, I am.
It's been a long week.
Yeah, we're opening up another property and just having to push music to it, and just 9-10 hour days already. So,
oof, that's not good. That's not good. Well, I'm excited to be here. I know you are too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mike's here. He says that's a loaded title question for this. What does everybody want? we all know what that's all about, because we're talking about OVW wrestlers on Netflix today. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Willie's here. He says tables, chairs broken at Fox News Studios. Just has a sign on that says caution, wide load has been here.
Oh wow.
Willie's never going to move on from Tyrus. It'll be 10 years from now. We'll have like we'll be 12 world champions deep from Tyrus, and they'll be like, remember Tyrus? That mofo was fat. The boss is here. We will mind our manners, sir. We promise. What does everybody need? Our brother in Pod Championship Wrestling from Jeremy will be here in just a few moments. He's just running a bit late. Give Scooby an award, damn it. J. Cal says, you need an award, Dave.
I'm just happy to have a job and be able to just sit at a computer and deal with music and have fun most of the time.
Yeah, that's good. It's important to be able to do something you at least like.
Yeah.
Eric Dale, welcome. This is going to get seriously philosophical. We explore the question of what everybody wants. So, yeah, again, back to what we're talking about today. We are going to go through some, we'll talk a little bit about any of the high spots around Power, although, I know it was a fairly solid episode, most people thought. I didn't think there were really many high points to it, but we can talk about one or two. And we're going to talk actually about some of the WWE stars that recently got released, and whatever Jeremy and Dave and you guys in the chat, most importantly, think might be the best fit in the NWA. I don't follow WWE or AEW. I haven't for a long, long time. And so I am not equipped with the information to be able to give much of an analysis on that. Past your Shelton Benjamins and your Dolph Zigglers, I guess, but there are a lot of names there that I'm sure you guys will know. We'll talk a little bit about Sawin coming up, and a couple other things before we get to reviewing wrestlers. The first season, there's only one season. The first episode of a seven episode docu-series. Docutainment maybe is what you might want to call it in the end, but
yeah,
because there certainly is that been to it. I did want to show something, and I saw it just before I came on, though. And Heaps put this up. I don't know if Heaps is out there right now, but this one right here, we know of before for Power Taping is coming up, Dave, in November, back in Nashville, November 4th. And then Heaps just showed this in our Discord. Return to Robarts Arena, Sarasota, Florida on November 18th. Just 2 weeks later. And so, he's asked the question, does that mean we're going to monthly tapings? Are we going to a different schedule than what we've seen? I think that we're going to back to the Kazanas in December for that matter. I believe that Joe Kazana said that. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, as long as they can keep it uniformed and a similar look. I know different organizations do things different ways, but if they're going to be doing tapings and events and matches, anytime that the NWA or NWA talent is involved, use it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of these things of that, like TV titles. When Thom was defending the TV title out on the Indies, only NWA matches were counted towards his 7.
Right.
But that doesn't mean he can't go out and defend them. And I mean, if they can get some highlights, just have somebody there with a phone and just record some of the highlights, and just that can add an extra 1 or 2 minutes of, hey, your TV champion Max is over in Japan. Here's some footage of Max wrestling.
Right. Or Finland.
Yeah. I mean, any time that NWA talent is wrestling, if they're a belt holder, or even if they're not, highlight them out on the Indies. Because I mean, the more you spread the word, hopefully more eyes get on the product. If you see somebody at a independent wrestling match and you're like, hey, they're pretty cool, you Google them and go, oh wow, I didn't know they were part of NWA. Oh, NWA's on YouTube, it's free, cool. You gained one, 2, 3, 4, who knows how many more sets of eyes on your product by allowing the talent to be out on the Indies. So I'm looking at it, it's a win-win, and I mean, more power to them.
I agree. Jay was saying, I don't feel this is for a monthly taping. I think it means an extended holiday break. That's a good point. That could be as well. But with some of these things, like with this coming out just now that we're talking about, and with, where is the Corgan announcement here at Exodus Pro on October 7th? We don't know what that'll mean. We saw that tweet from the company that EC3 was going to defend the 10 pounds of gold at, saying that the NWA pulled him back for a Netflix. I think they said a Netflix. I don't remember the exact word. I don't know if it was show or what, but it still kind of sounds like there's movement, and movement is important to obviously to stop stagnation. So it seems like exciting times.
I mean, it's the more that the NWA can get put out there, whether it's under the banner of NWA Power, or, I mean, if it's EC3 showing up on wrestlers, he's wrestling for OVW. So, I mean, if we can get some crossover, hey, I'm fine with that. I just saw that Cardona was supposed to be, I guess, over in England fighting James Storm, and for whatever reason, he is no longer over there, and that's on October 28th. So the Deathmatch King may show up at Samhain. I mean, I'd love to see him get more involved. He's been posting that he never lost the 10 pounds of gold. He had to give it up. So if they can further that storyline, he has a lot of people that follow him, and anytime that there's a live event that he's at, that's good. If the NWA can get to taping every 4 to 5 weeks, hey, more power to them. Keep things fresh. If things don't go your way, you can pivot within 2 to 3 weeks' time after things either work out or don't work out. So it's just one of those things of do what you got to do to make things work.
Yeah, the IPW championship, Cardona and James Storm. I'm glad to see James Storm's name back in the, in the mix, so to speak.
Yeah.
And Jay says that was misinformation from the other promotion. Nothing is going on with Netflix. Okay. Well, I didn't mean to. I guess I meant to speculate, but not to put that as fact. So, but again, still lots of things going on, as we say, and lots of excitement to be had. What'd you think of Power last night? Any high spots for you on that show?
I mean, it was what it was. Some of the stuff I'm like, okay, the clowns are wrestling. La Rebellion is going to show up. It furthers the storyline, and I mean, I'm actually interested in the Violent J and Clowns of, or Brothers of Funstruction versus La Rebellion, and there's no titles involved. It's just I'm not going to say it's a grudge match, but it's a match that has history, and they're just playing off of that. So it's one of these things of there's little things here and there that they can do, but I like that they're actually following the storyline, and whatever they can do to make things interesting, do it. It doesn't harm your U.S. tag champs. Daisy Kill and Talos aren't harmed. It's an outside interference. They retain the titles, so it's something I don't mind every once in a while, but I don't want interference every match. I want to see them actually go out there and win a couple matches.
I'm trepidatious about this feud, which is obviously going to come to a head at Samhain. I don't want to see. I would love to see like a Funstruction versus La Rebellion match. I do not want to see a 6-man tag match involving Jay and Vampiro, and I do not want to see Jay versus Vampiro.
No,
I mean that's what I'm worried about. With the confrontation, seems to be mostly about the managers right now. There's a lot of focus there, and I'm not interested in that match. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens along Power. Willie Bowen says Maddie versus Camille. I enjoyed that match. It was a weird match, I thought, Dave. I said to my wife in the beginning, what should happen here is that Camille comes out and she's pissed off and she decimates Maddie in 2 minutes. And then as it went along, I realized the story they were telling, and it seemed to kind of elevate Maddie, and I was certainly okay with it. But we do hear that she has that WWE tryout. We wish her all the best. So, what did you think of that fight?
I mean, it kept Camille strong, but like you said, it could have been just a short ground and pound, and Maddie got in a lot of offense, and that's not a bad thing. It keeps her strong. Camille can move on, and depending on what happens with the Performance Center and Maddie being there, it leaves an opening for her to go either way. If she does get signed, she can just slowly go away. If she doesn't get signed, it can be revenge tactics that she either comes back with Missa Kate and offers to do a tag match, and that forces Camille to find a partner.
Yeah, I kind of feel with like somebody like a Jade Cargill going to WWE and the big hoopla around that, it kind of feels like there's a spot, over on over in AEW. I don't know how well Camille would do in that particular company, but with Serena Deeb not being around for the last year, and they're yelling about that today on Busted Open, I think so. I don't know. It could be her time to move on. It sort of felt like they were like maybe going to go for a storyline where, wow, she won that one, but barely. And has she lost it and maybe has to get her mojo back before chasing the title? But I don't know. Lots of comments here. Eric says Mim stole a win. He sure did. Chris Adonis dropped an F-bomb. I missed that. I did miss that. But that four-way match, I don't think anyone who wasn't there at the time expected Mims to, be the guy to come out of that qualifying match and going on now to face Zicky Dice. What'd you think of that?
I'm not going to say I was surprised. I was intrigued. I was thinking that, they're going to push Jordan or they're going to push Adonis again. But seeing Adonis and Jordan on the outside fighting, maybe they'll have a feud down the line, or it may be a match coming up at the pay-per-view to see who goes after the TV title.
Right.
Who's the next contender. But it's one of these things of, is Magnum Muscle no more? Who knows?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
He was wearing his old gear.
Yeah.
He wasn't wearing his Magnum Muscle trunks. He was wearing his old singlet. So who knows? I'm glad to see him get the win. I'm just hoping that he gets a push. And that doesn't mean he has to win. He just has to step up the ladder, move up the ladder some.
TV title scene is right where he ought to be. And
yep.
I feel like he really lost his mojo when he had that injury, I guess. I think we finally were of the mind that he did get injured against Tyrus way back some time ago. So I'm glad to see him back in that scene. Jay said he was shocked live. Mike said, and I'll get back to your earlier comments too in a sec, Mike, but just to stay on topic here, I'll say I was surprised. Who the F, though, Mims, even after that WWF promo he gave, whoever thought he would win. Good for him, but is it just to lose to Dice? Maybe. I guess we'll see. Poor Bulletproof. He was hit on all sides. Well, Cat's got to pay his dues. That's what happens in the NWA. I'm sure he'll turn it around. He's got all the physical look to build skills and hopefully promos on as well. Just going to go back up to the thing here. Jeremy's coming. He's running late. He'll be here. Jay said it felt like they are building to a 6-man. I thought so too. And I just, I always liked Vampiro. Back at WCW days is where I know him best from. But it's seeing him in Mexico, and I feel like managerial status is where he ought to be.
Yeah.
So here's Mike here saying OVW now has potential with EC3 as champ to be on their so-called TV. EC3 was on even before their Netflix or him becoming champ. More needs to be done. I think he's talking about for Power. Well, this is what you're getting, Tim. The last match and the so-called pull apart, that was effing terrible. Looking at the ring, that's why Jay was up far where he can't be seen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was Dave's favorite episode. It certainly wasn't mine. But I didn't hate it. And I feel like the product's really improved. So
yeah, it was good action, but a lot of it I think was telegraphed.
Mm-hmm.
You could see either where they're wanting to go, or I'm not really sure how far ahead they plan, but it looks like I mean, we're basically a month away from the pay-per-view, and we have 3 to 4 matches.
Yeah.
There's all these title belts. They have 9 total title belts.
Yeah.
That's 9 matches plus the Clowns and La Rebellion. That's 10 right there. If they have 1 or 2 more, if they have 12 matches, that's a good pay-per-view, but they'll also have 2 to 3 pre-show matches. So there could be up to 15 matches in a night, which isn't bad, but if all of your matches or 90% of them are title matches, that's a good thing. But the size of the NWA, that's almost too many belts to be defended at one time.
It is. I mean,
At least in my opinion.
I agree. Which I've always been fine with not having the TV belts at the pay-per-view. That's okay. I feel like they can be used to elevate, people on Power, or if USA would ever return.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Willie, I read your joke. I read it to everyone. Very funny. Retro's here. Indy, where is it? Yeah, I liked Maddie versus Camille as well. That was the indie version of Maddie that hasn't been in the NWA. The Maddie Rankowski version. It was nice to see her get some offense, which is a bit weird to see Camille, who's been so dominant, just taking beatings for as long as she did there. Let's see here. I do not want to see. Retro says ICP in that ring. No way. To your point, Dave, Mike says, yes, Scooby. And because the so-called telegraph for spots, it looked atrocious. If you're going to have cams on it, make it look legit, not like a pillow fight.
Mm-hmm.
Sam says NW will never be able to have all the titles and normal matches on one pay-per-view. Well, they did the last pay-per-view, didn't they? They didn't skip any at 75 that I can recall.
No. And I mean, I can understand having a match if the title is up for grabs, like the men's TV title.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be won before the pay-per-view and then defended, but I agree that the TV title should just be for the YouTube shows. Highlight that and use the other titles to either have qualifying matches for contenders for the next pay-per-view. That if they're actually going to go every 6 to 7 weeks instead of every 9 to 10 weeks with a pay-per-view, use Power to build up these contenders and have matches where the champion comes out to watch the match and sit at the commentators table, and then actually have some decent matches to build up your contenders for all the titles.
Right. Yep, makes sense to me. I think we have a Phantom of the Green Room in backstage here. But we'll let him come in on his own time. There he is. Dun dun dun.
I'm no Phantom.
The creatures of the night.
I've never seen any of that.
It's the stupidest play or movie or whatever ever written. It's this guy.
It comes across that way.
Yeah, it's like this like creepy incel who's mildly burned on one side of his face. And he's in love with this chick, so he kidnaps her. And when she wants to see his face, he loses his mind. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I saw it like a month ago for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Hey, you know what? Let's talk about some of these WWE stars that you guys know. And you can tell me all about them. He's something like 21 or something like that. Superstars released in the month of September by WWE post TKO merger. Let's go through them. Mustafa Ali. And I think that's I guess one of the bigger names, although probably not one of the biggest. What do you guys think of him, and how would they relate to the NWA? Too big, too small, not a fit, good fit?
I think Mustafa Ali would be good in the cruiserweight division. I don't know how big he runs, but I don't see him being anywhere near 225.
Yeah.
And that what we run at limit is 225. So
yeah,
I don't see him being heavier than that. He would be a great addition to the junior heavyweight scene, in my opinion. And he's a Chicago guy as well, so.
Oh, well, that's helpful.
Yeah, I was going to mention him being a Chicago guy. He would fit right in. Size-wise, he can either build up the junior heavyweights, but I also see him possibly fitting in AEW, being that he is of Indian descent.
Yeah.
And he would fit in his style. Granted, some of our guys can flip and fly around, and I don't mind it, but it's not really the forte of what the NWA, in my opinion, stands for. I don't mind it every once in a while, like Jack Cartwheel.
Yeah.
That's just something it's different.
Right.
But when you have Colby in there, Colby can do some high flying moves, but he can also ground and pound, and he can wrestle. All that he is lacking is basic size. That if he was 2 or 3 inches taller and maybe 25 pounds heavier, he could be a super junior or a smaller quote unquote heavyweight. But I could see Ali fitting in anywhere he goes because he can adapt and wrestle almost any kind of style.
He'd be a good fit for the X division.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I know the name Rick Boogs. I've never seen the man. I've never
he
seen
is
him
a
wrestle.
specimen.
I mean, this has to be his real name, right? Like
Eric Bugenhagen.
I'm sorry?
Gesundheit.
What did you say it was?
Eric Bugenhagen.
Well, you do, and you'll clean it up.
All over the walls.
Yeah. Okay, so he's one of the bigger names, I would say, on the list. Like he seems upper mid card to me from my peripheral, obviously, point of view. Am I right? And how would he fit?
Mid carder. He could easily go into the upper mid card. I feel tons of charisma. A big guy. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll DM you the link to it. He's a specimen type. He's one of those freak guys. He's power lifter, high energy. He'd honestly, him and Zicky would make a fun tag team.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave? Good fit?
I mean, I could see him fitting in. I've watched some of him in WWE, and granted, his guitar playing gimmick is
air guitar.
Yeah, it's something that if brought in, whether it be him or Elias doing the guitar thing, that could be a Billy Corgan bringing these guys in as quote unquote guitar players. And, oh, you also wrestle? Well, we need an opening band for the Smashing Pumpkins when we go on tour. I need a backup guitar player, blah, blah, blah. And it works into he plays guitar, but he also wrestles for Billy.
Yeah, I'm just looking him up right now. He looks like if you had Scott Hall and Rick Rude had a baby.
Yeah, that is a great comparison. And to Dave's point, Zicky, Elias, and Boogs, 3MB 2.0.
Yeah.
That was a terrible gimmick. Why would you wish that on anyone?
Because for as terrible as it was like an awesome pair of bowling shoes. You
That's
find
okay.
them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe the biggest name on the list, Dolph Ziggler, 18-year, I think, employee of WWE. He's not coming. He'll be AEW, or New Japan if anything. And hey, I heard the other day that they might very well be the same thing soon. There is Going in Raw was saying, did Tony
rumor and innuendo.
Rumor and Indian. Well, they asked him. They asked him at the scrum for Wrestle Dream, Tony Khan, and he kind of went, "Here's the subject, and I'm going to talk this way."
Yeah, he's real good about that.
Yeah, I mean, eventually he said, "I'm just not going to answer that. I'm going to want people to come to the pay-per-view."
Yeah.
Elias is on that particular list. What do you guys think about Elias? Dave, what do you think about Elias?
I mean, from what I've seen, he can wrestle. I'm not sure if you can. I mean, gimmick-wise, he'll have to change his name, but I don't know if you can actually copyright a man playing guitar as a wrestler. I mean, if so, he wouldn't be around, and you'd go back to, who is it, Van Hammer?
Yeah, oh yeah.
God.
But it's one of these things. I mean, he can wrestle. It just depends on if he wants to and where he wants to. That you have to figure out, first off, the name, the look, and where he wants to go. And I mean, most of the WWE wrestlers have a 90-day. So right before Christmas, like the second or third week of December, they'll be available. Like the 19th or 20th, I think, they'll be available. So it's one of these things of who knows what happens. But I mean, I think he'd be a good get. But any of these people that come into the NWA, if they want to stay there, that's cool. But the way the tapings are going, if they do a taping every 4 to 6 weeks, they can float around and they just go, okay, we're in this area, we're in this area, and we're in this area. That if the NWA is serious about setting things up, that they'll have everything written down and know where their tapings are going to be for the next year, to be able to get these people to come in. And they don't have to be full-time. They just have to be available for 3 or 4 days in a 60 to 75-day week. So we'll see what happens.
Your mic's killing everything there, Jeremy. I know what you're doing there, but it's pretty crackly. It's better
Sorry
now.
about that.
Yeah, no problem. Riddick Moss. Jeremy, you know Riddick Moss?
He was paired up with Baron Corbin. He was, I believe, and he's talented. I most I got to see of him wrestle was whenever he was paired up with Corbin. I don't really know much about him other than that. Really.
Dave, what do you think, Dave?
I mean, lower to mid card guy. He has size, but it's one of these things. If you really don't do much in the WWE, when you leave or go elsewhere, you're able to start brand new. You can do a new gimmick. You're not tied into, oh, I'm the Undertaker and I'm the Dead Man and I do this and this and this. That you're able to start all over, and there really are no expectations. You're just a wrestler with decent size. You can go in the ring, and it's time to start new.
Right. Top Dollar. Now this guy, that's AJ Francis, right?
Yeah.
So like that he's a big he's a big dude, but did he have any ability in the ring, guys? I never watched him.
The Hit Row didn't get a whole lot of ring time. And then they got even less whenever he went to go over the top rope and got hung up.
Yeah.
And then was immediately buried by commentary by being referred to as Flop Dollar by Michael Cole. I've seen him on the social, the Twitter X, whatever, and he comes across as a little upset. I don't see why not giving him a shot. I mean, fuck, you gave Tyrus one.
What do you think, Dave?
I mean, for a big guy, he can wrestle, and Billy likes big guys. I'm not sure where he would actually fit in, but I mean, give him a shot. I know from seeing his socials and seeing some video of him on YouTube, he can talk.
Yeah.
He just doesn't need to do the high impact moves. He's a big guy. Just do big guy moves.
Right.
A lot of splashing in the corners, stuff like that.
He was too busy knowing that he could, not thinking that if he should or not.
Yeah.
I'm at retro at 75. I am not 6'8". I was 6'5" at one point. I think I'm a little slightly under 6'4" now. But you got about 30 pounds more on me than I actually have. I used to be 280 though. That was a sight to see. Anyway, let's go through some of the other bigger names. You know, you guys can stop me if you want to talk about any of these ones, but I know Emma and Aaliyah were let go. I mean, I think that's fine, right? Like they could, if they're available, hey, come on in. I don't think that's a massive deal for anyone.
Emma could probably go back to Impact with little issue and go back to being Tennille Dashwood. There, she was a top guy there. So
yeah. What about Dana Brooke? How old's Dana Brooke now? I'll look that up.
Yeah, she brings name value.
She does.
You know, of the females on the list, she is the longest tenured female that was with the WWE.
10 years and 15-time WWE 24/7 champion.
Oh, shit. Up there with Flair.
Again, I haven't watched WWE in years. I was not aware the 24/7 title was. Is it a intergender title?
Yeah, and I think interspecies as well.
Anybody, anytime, any place. Yeah.
Oh, all right, that's fine. Retro's asking who is Aaliyah? Exactly.
She was an NXT and then just got brought up and was getting a monster push and then got hurt. I think she got paired up in a tag team and got hurt.
Mason Mansoor. They were the
Maximum Male Models.
Thank you. Maximum Male Models. They looked like they had something strapped with a terrible, gimmick as they were, but they looked like there was some talent there. What do you guys think? What do you think, Dave?
I mean, I don't watch WWE much. It's in the background.
Right.
And if there's anything that I see that interests me or anything that gets posted on X, I'll go check it out. But it's one of these things. There's so many people out there that can wrestle.
Sure.
You have yourself special. So it's one of these things of maybe them getting away from the WWE and actually coming up with their own gimmick or using their own name. That, I mean, like I said about Riddick Moss, if you're not really known or a big name in the WWE, when you leave, they can say you're a former talent of the WWE, but you don't use that name anymore, and you can actually rebuild your style and make yourself into something. I mean, Cardona has done it using his real name. I didn't mind him as Zack Ryder or the Edgeheads back when he and Brian Myers, but it's one of these things. He's proved that with work, you can make it out on your own. So it's just up to all the people that were released to either, if they have a 30, 60, or 90-day no compete clause, use that time to do signings, but come up with a new character. Unless you're known for something specific, get as far away from your WWE character because you don't own that. They do.
Right. Matt Cardona is not trying to be Zack Ryder.
Not at all.
No, and he rather quickly was able to separate himself once he got away from WWE and reestablish himself as Matt Cardona. And looking at Mace, he's 32 years old. He is 6'6", 300 pounds.
Wow.
This is a monster of a man.
Yeah.
WWE had him billed at 6'8", 286. But yeah, like to echo what Dave was saying, a lot of these smaller name guys, lesser known name talents, they have the perfect opportunity to go out to the indies. I'm a former WWE talent, and then just start anew. The new kid in school. You know, new school, new town, fresh start.
Yeah.
Well, new kid in school to old dog in the yard. Shelton Benjamin's 48 years old. He looks 34.
Yep.
And listen, I don't hold any, I never do. I don't hold any, belief that he'd be NWA bound at any point. But if he ever wanted to, you were talking about guys who can wrestle. I can't think of anyone I wouldn't want on my Survivor Series team more than Shelton Benjamin when it comes to actual wrestling. Like, he looks phenomenal. And I imagine it's just more that they didn't have something for him than it is. And looking at his age, because they like young over there. What do you think about Shelton Benjamin, Dave?
I mean, he can go wherever he pleases. I'd like to see him do a couple matches over in New Japan.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that AEW is so overgrown with talent that it's cool that they can bring talent in, but they're the flavor of the week, literally. That 1 or 2 weeks and then they're on to somebody new or a returning star or something. He can basically, I could see him going out. Shelton Benjamin is his name, so he can use his name, I believe.
Yeah.
Have him go out, and I would have him do wrestling clinics. I would pay him to come into my organization and do a wrestling clinic, plus be on a couple shows. He doesn't need to go to any one organization. He can float around for a while. And like you said, age is up there, but the guy can go.
100%.
Unless he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. He would be, he would be a gift from the gods to almost any independent wrestling organization, whether he's signed full-time or just comes in to work with the talent for maybe give him a 90-day agreement that you come in to Impact and you work with these guys. Imagine him in the X division.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anybody he wrestles, their stock would rise instantly if they listen to him.
I feel like as far as titles are worth anything to the actual talent as props and what they mean for their career building, that what the NWA has in its arsenal, number one, is the 10 pounds of gold. So, Cody wanted the 10 pounds of gold because his dad had it. And there's a story, there's a circle there that can be brought together. If Billy Corgan ever got a phone call with Shelton Benjamin, I'd be saying, look, I'll do for you what I did for Cardona. We won't, it won't take forever. You can do 6 to 9 months with the company. We're going to put the belt on you. We're going to have somebody chase you, and I'd be so happy with Shelton Benjamin as world's champion. He'd be phenomenal. And look, I'm happy with EC3. Don't get me wrong, but there you go. I can gush on him all day, but what about Quincy Elliott? So Sean Ross Sapp, I know, reported recently on Fightful that there was problems in the locker room there, and having just seen glimpses of the gimmick and all of that stuff, I'm not especially enthralled with the idea of Quincy Elliott in the NWA. What about you, Jeremy?
I have no idea who that person is.
There you go, Dave.
At all.
Same.
Okay, look him up. But it's definitely one of the minor names. Shanky to me is somebody that Jim Cornette makes fun of, and like that's the full extent of my knowledge of that wrestler. What about you guys? Isn't he massive?
He's another guy that really tall, Kali-esque, but he had the gimmick where he was paired up with Jinder Mahal, and he caught dance fever, and he would start dancing, and he would do this little. He would kind of shake, and he was over with the crowd. And then he just kind of disappeared.
All right. Well, I mean, we got a giant. I'm okay with that. How about you, Dave?
I mean, it's one of these things that a lot of the talent that was released, I hate to see anybody lose a job, but if you got to WWE, there's a reason you got there. Now it's time to make it on your own. I mean, there's been several people that have been released, gone out, made a new name for themselves, built themselves back up, and went back to the WWE. Right. There may be a few that do that this go around, but there's opportunity out there. They just need to find it. And depending on their release date and how long they have a no compete, they need to find out what they can do and where they can go, and just start hitting up anybody and everybody to try to get booked, whether it's just for signings or for possibly matches down the line. But it's one of these things that your destiny is now in your own hands.
Right. Well, some of the other names I don't know, like I haven't even heard peripherally. And you guys can stop me if you want to chime in on any of them, but we have Elia Leon, Dabakato, Bryson Montana, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Daniel MacArthur, never heard of these guys. So Alexis Gray, Brooklyn Barlow. This might be some of the NXT people now.
Yeah.
Eichmann Giro, Abdul Abadi Fitzgerald, Melanie Brzezinski, which was a Performance Center recruit, didn't make an in-ring debut, and of course, Matt Riddle, former UFC guy. Jeremy, been in the WWE, I imagine, several years. Had a couple of just I'm a weirdo kind of problems from what I recall. I obviously had that one that's been reported on at the airport coming back from the tour in India recently. But released from the WWE, certainly a super talented guy. Never quite made it all the way to the top, though. What do you think? What do you think about Matt Riddle?
No,
straight up, no.
Absolutely not. And I was going to say not until he grows up a little bit more, gets a little bit more age under his belt. But he's 37.
Oh.
And I say this as someone that was high on Matt Riddle,
right?
Pun intended and not intended.
Funny.
But he ticked all the boxes. He is a legit athlete, and had he not messed up in UFC and pissed off the wrong people there, we'd probably be talking about him today as one of their top guys there. He is naturally a gifted athlete,
right.
That just seems to pick up any type of combat sport very easily. He can talk when given the opportunity and a little bit of freedom to. Has the look, like I said, ticked all the boxes, but he's a fuck up.
Yeah. You've got to think, Dave, that to Jeremy's point, when you have a guy who is, let me back up a half step. Forgive me for rambling for a second. I know a guy who was drafted to the NHL, went to the Dallas Stars, lived, breathed, ate this stuff. And when he went to that organization, he'd already been through what in this example amounts to the independence. He'd been through the college system in the U.S. He'd played minor hockey. Now he's in the big league. And he'd already understood that when you get there, there is a lifestyle that they expect from you. If you want, like you meet with a nutritionist your first week, you have a code of conduct that they're not fucking around about. It's not something you, me, or Jeremy's going to sign at work that says that we won't go on the internet and say bad things about people. None of that stuff. It is, if you screw up, you will not be here. You won't have ice time. You won't be paid. You'll be gone. And, I feel like this is the same thing in the WWE. There's no way that even like wrestling is a organization that is filled with people with big egos. It has to be. They're performers and they're entertainers and they're athletes, and that's just what comes with that. But anyone who's a pro understands that when you're in an organization like WWE or NWA for that matter, there is a certain level of expectation that is required from you. And if you're not going to do it, then you don't get to be here. And I'm sure in this particular case, to kind of wrap that bad analogy up, I'd want him on my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave? Would you take Riddle?
I mean,
maybe
I wouldn't bring him in full time. I'd bring him in just because of name recognition.
Yeah.
And because the NWA is sort of the island of misfit toys.
Yep.
But I'm not sure where he would fit in, except with maybe Troop, that you have your straight man and your basic goof. That they could possibly work together. But I mean, to me, Riddle is just a Spicoli that can wrestle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he wrestles, it's almost one of those things of when you step in the ring, flip the switch, and he goes and wrestles, and then when he's done, the switch gets flipped, and he's back to normal.
I love the reference.
Yeah, but I mean, it's depending on what he would want and how he could work with the NWA. I'm not sure. I mean, it's Billy's call, but he's sort of on the outs due to the fact that Endeavor is both UFC and WWE.
Yeah.
So if Bellator or another fighting organization picks him up, or he does the bare knuckle thing or whatever, I mean, he's under 40 and basically his career's over. At least what I see, at least for WWE and UFC, unless they decide to bring him back. I mean, if he saved his money, he can sit back and smoke his life away.
But that being said, how great would it be? I mean, maybe AEW would be that company to roll an old van down the ramp and have him fall out the side of it with smoke billowing out. You know,
yeah.
Like I'd put him with the manager and make him call him Mr. Hand the whole time. Aloha, Mr. Hand.
I'd pop wherever he showed up. Like I said, I like the guy,
right.
You know, but he's like Dave said though, the US or NWA is the land of second chances. You know, they are the island of misfit toys. So bring him in and see what he does.
Sure. I mean, I feel like you got to have that talk with him beforehand, and you know, I'm sure they would. You know, there's been guys who've done way worse things, right?
Yeah.
You want to say something, Dave?
I just had a weird thought. I watch AEW enough to follow some of the wrestlers, and you have Sting there with Darby Allin, who does all the risk. Sting is getting older, but he's also transitioning his character a little here and there. He's still doing the woo, but he's also showing glimpses of when he was the Joker in Impact back in TNA.
Oh.
Imagine Sting coming out and all of a sudden grabbing a mic and go, "Hey, AEW, riddle me this." And all of a sudden Riddle walks out.
Right. That's funny. You know, it's funny because Joker Sting is probably my favorite Sting. And as weird as that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was a big Sting fan back in the day.
Yeah.
Surfer Sting. Oh man. There was nothing better than that for a kid.
Absolutely. I don't think that there was any build for Sawin, guys, like from this episode of Power. Like we didn't see any more matches. We got a hint that probably the brothers from Struction and La Rebellion and their two managers are going to get together for a match. But other than that, I don't think that there's anything more we should talk about for Sawin, which is October 28th in Cleveland. The other
Cleveland,
Ohio. Pop. We know Kenzie Page versus Ruthie J is booked. We know that EC3 and Thom Latimer are booked, and although I don't think it was ever formally announced on the air, there's a poster for Carino and Alonzo, which feels like it's been done a few times before. But hey, they've got the same manager, and that's fun. So we'll see which way that particularly falls apart. Yeah, Ruthie J, how you doing? Only to lose. Yeah, she's not going to win.
No.
You saw 8 title changes at 75. I would be surprised if you saw more than one at Sawin.
I'd honestly be shocked if you see the one.
Well, Dave has said last week, right, that what if the Hex came back for this themed pay-per-view? I could see just them coming out, and taking the titles away from Pretty Empowered. But hey, beyond that, yeah, like it's not draw. You gotta draw me in for this event, and it hasn't happened yet. There's still time.
Yeah.
So let's just go past that. I'm going to go into this. This is the last week. We did it last week, and we're talking about it just for a second. There is a fundraiser, a GoFundMe campaign for the Stro, the Maestro, to many of other people as well, to Gorgeous George the Third, if you prefer that name, facing some tough times. Life has not been super great to the Stro recently, and he's trying to rebuild. And so there's a GoFundMe campaign set up by one of his guys. You got your hand up. Do you need me? Did you?
Oh no.
Okay. By one of his buds, and is asking people to contribute. So if you got a few dollars lying around, and I do mean a few, if you like it, you can give, I guess, as little as you like, but it's just cool if you can, to be able to give back to one of the guys who gave us a bunch of really cool matches, and his body got beat up from what it is that he's been doing. There is the GoFundMe link right there. I'll take a second and I'll put it in the the comments bar. So there's that, and I do want to. It's been a week since I talked about this, and I've had like the busiest month of my professional career, so I have not given this all of the effort that I wanted to, but I'm only going to do it on a weekly basis anyway, and today or tomorrow is that day. There is a petition that I have created to restore the NWA Hall of Fame to prominence. There have been no names in the Lightning One era that have been elected to the NWA Hall of Fame, which started in 2005 and seemingly stopped in about 2017. So we're 6 years in with Mr. Corgan's ownership of the NWA. We haven't seen a Hall of Fame, and I am asking that everybody sign this and also support online the tweets and messages that we're putting out there by whatever retweeting is called now, reposting, I guess, or what have you. Where we're asking the NWA to consider restoring the Hall of Fame so that we can celebrate the greats that we haven't been able to celebrate yet. And there are so many names, so many greats that could easily go into the Hall of Fame that aren't there, guys. And I'd love to have NWA 76 as that, Hall of Fame ceremony, even if it's virtual, something for us to celebrate. And I'm hoping that the Alliance will family will back it and sign it. I think immediately there were about 25 names there when we first did it. It's a great start. We're a niche community on a niche product, I guess. So, but I'm hoping to show Mr. Corgan in a very friendly way on an ongoing basis. I'll be tweeting at them at the NWA at him saying, can we talk about this? Can we bring this back? Can we have it in place? So please, if you can, sign the petition. Let's get the Hall of Fame back. All right, guys. You want to talk about a TV show? You want to talk about wrestlers on Netflix? Of course you do.
Sure.
We are talking about episode 1 of Wrestlers on Netflix. I don't think we even need that. I need to put that up there. Signed in 5 times with names I use legally.
Wait, how does that even work?
I know. Max
You got
Power.
to tell me how that even works, Mike.
Mike says, just for whatever we were talking about before. Wait, hold up. Same manager? 2 episodes ago in the tag match, you've seen Stanley choose Alonzo, and commentary even said Stanley made his mind up. So why is Stanley with Carino? I don't know, but I haven't seen them break up formally. I assumed they were going to play it off in a show coming up where he went, look, man, you're already the world junior champ. You know, Joe needs this tag match to go his way to keep momentum. You don't need this. You're doing your singles thing, and probably could have blown it off that way. But anyway, so Wrestlers is a Netflix show. It is a 7-episode series. We're going to do this for 7 weeks. And I don't think we need to spend all kinds of time on it, but it is a show that we've all watched to a certain degree. I think, all enjoyed it. It is a very well crafted, just speaking from a holistic overview, then I'll throw it to you guys. It is a very well crafted show in terms of it being like a docutainment. You know, there's a story here that will go over the entire 7 episodes, which really focuses on, will OVW survive through the summer that they're filming it in? And the focus of the show in the backdrop, the big shadow to the story, is that they're in financial trouble. And Al Snow, the owner operator, has 2 partners that he has brought in the previous, year. And one of which, a gentleman by the name, I think it's Matt, if I remember correctly. I do have stuff here, but he's a Country Boy Matt or something like that, right? He's a radio talk show host. He's set up as your entertainment villain, and where Al is very low key and he's focused on the product and trying to give the best weekly product on OVW television that he can. He's doing this and has been doing this at a financial loss of, I think they say at one point in the series, $180,000 a year, a season, and not sustainable. Yeah. So you have this kind of duality, as you would expect in any TV show. And this is just the overriding arc. They're not like, they don't scream and throw stuff at each other. It's not the kind of reality TV where it's like Housewives or whatever, but it is there is an opposition here, at least on a tension between them as the show goes on. But the show, in episode 1, guys, focuses on a bunch of particular wrestlers for this episode, some of which we see more of later, some of which we see, actually, the main ones we kind of see throughout the series, and that is Cash Flow, who's a big heavyweight, aging out on the scene, and really a boon as a backstage leader and supporter in OVW. We are seeing Shira, the Indian Lion, who the OVW heavyweight champion, who looks like $1 million. Like, yep. I think he's if I remember correctly, he's ex-WWE or NXT, who had been released in the past. He's phenomenal in his appearance and in his attitude, frankly, as we learn as well. And we have the amazing Maria, who is a producer on the show, also a wrestler in the women's division, is a little older, well into her 40s, I would say, at least mid 40s. And her real life daughter, who really sucks up a lot of the oxygen in the room around the camera, in Hollywood Haley J, who is a young and up and coming star, who's a lot of the focus of this particular show. So it's Matt, and as I mentioned, and Craig Greenberg, who actually is now the mayor of Louisville Metro. Yes. And they bought into it. We learn in the first episode Their goals are to make this successful. They're not wrestling guys per se. They're here to, they enjoy it. It's fun. Matt brings his mom, that type of thing. And I can't put that up, Mike. I can't, come on. But I get your point. But they're here to turn a profit, and this has to be done at a profit. And I find myself right off the bat, just setting up that scene, Jeremy, that I'm old enough and businessy enough, as I said in the Discord today, to, while, I'm inclined as a wrestling fan to want to side with the wrestlers who are a bit grumpy about it. And Al's a total pro about it, I find, throughout the show.
Yeah.
But as much as I do not like the presentation and the way the guy comes across to the staff, Matt, that is, one of the financial backers, he's loud. I find him obnoxious and arrogant. I also find him right. And that you can't do this without making money. I guess before we talk about some of the particular points of the show, what did you think of like the setup, guys? I'll ask you, Jeremy, first. What did you think of the setup, like the four main talent on the air? I'll get to you to Mike's stuff in the comments in a second. Plus the backers and Al and the story. What was your impression on episode 1?
I liked how they set it up and introduced everything. I liked when you got introduced to, like you said, your main characters for this season: Cashflow, Mahabali Shira, Hollywood Haley J, Al, Great Maria, or Fabulous Maria, or whatever her name is. And then you got the heels and baby faces, and you got introduced to Matt, and he is one of those guys that he's invested his money. He wants to see a return on that investment. And from the business side, I can't fault him at all for that.
Right.
From the wrestling business side, there were so many reasons why I would have slapped the ever-living dog snot out of him.
Right.
Just completely disrespectful to the talent backstage. He is gregarious. He is a very big personality. Kind of has to be. He's a radio host. He is the top sports show in Kentucky. So you don't get there without having that ego and that large personality. So a lot of it came across as just a clash of big personalities between him and the wrestling talent.
I agree. And I thought that Al Snow, I mean, obviously well into his 50s now, I would say, was very level-headed and dealt with him, like there was no shouting and screaming from Al. That's not what he was going to offer. It was the other guy, Matt, was much more gregarious and over the top.
Yeah, way more over the top. But like you said, Al handled everything with decorum. We'll figure this out, but there's no reason to raise voices or cop attitudes. Everything can. That's the one thing that I've liked about Al all the way through this. Everything can be figured out with a little bit of time and thought.
Mm-hmm.
Everything can be worked out with a little bit of time and thought. There's no reason to jump guns or get loud or anything like that.
There's that whole bit where he says something about wrestling dorks don't spend money.
And yet he's a wrestling dork that's dropping money. Him and his partner.
Exactly.
I hated that line.
Yeah.
I'd have punched him.
Me too. Like I kind of just sort of scratched my nose and thought, I drove 9 hours to go to NWA 75. I spent money on tickets. I bought shit when I was there. I paid for I'm a wrestling dork, but I'll spend. It's such a stupid, thing to say.
what cracked me up is that's the statement that we hear him say after I believe it's almost right after we hear him and Craig talking about, we've got to make, we're looking to make our money back on this because you're a wrestling dork that invested a ton of money, bro.
Yeah. And he's still right, as we say, since we're on that business this side, where he's saying you're losing $30,000 a month. So it's my money. You're going to do things, my way. You're in charge of the product. I'm in charge of, he doesn't quite say it that way. We're all in this together. He does try to do that. But he and the mayor now are basically the money. And they're going to say what changes are going to be made. The other side of it, Dave, I thought was really interesting was looking at the talent perspective, they really, there was a thing in there. I don't remember who says it, but like maybe it's Eric Darkstorm and or one of those guys who says, we're taking all of this crap from somebody who's never taken a bump. I don't know what we do. They're coming in here and they're trying to tell Al. And I thought that as arrogant but correct as Matt could be, I also thought on the other side, there was an arrogance, but they were wrong in my point of view on the wrestler's perspective. What did you think about what the wrestler side was?
Well, the wrestlers, it's one of those things of don't tell me how to do my job. And it's Matt Jones is very, I'm not saying flamboyant in a good or bad way. He struts himself out there, and he really has no concept. He knows what he likes. He likes wrestling, but it's like, oh, I like to eat, but I'm not a cook.
Right.
That he's basically saying, hey guys, I know you're the wrestlers, but it's time to shit or get off the pot. I've put my money in, and it's one of these things that as an investor, you can either be a silent investor, which both he and Craig are not, but they have the money aspect, but Al is a former wrestler and wrestled at ECW and learned under the learning tree of Paul Heyman. So it's one of these things of he's still doing the old kayfabe way. He knows that it's not looked at as, people know it's not quote unquote real, that it's a work. It's not a shoot.
Yeah. They're in on it, which I thought was a really great line. We're all in on it.
It's like we're in on it, but the wrestlers also need to realize that they may not be around if it wasn't for Matt and Craig putting in that money. That they may not be getting a lot of money to do the wrestling, and that they may have to follow someone else's lead of, hey, we're going on this tour, and over the summer we're doing 25 or 30 dates, whatever. Well, it's one of those of everybody needs to get aboard and get on the same page and do what needs to be done to make this a success. That it's not just one person that succeeds, that if the company succeeds, everybody wins. But then Matt and Chris have to realize that they bought into the company. These other guys have done the blood, sweat, and tears where they can talk, but they don't talk the talk and walk the walk. They're there as a financial backup for them.
Right.
But the wrestlers also need to realize that if it wasn't for that financial backup, everybody needs to get on the same page and basically earn each other's respect.
So that's a good point for me to break in here, I think, because where the first episode shows us, the money side, and you get how they've got to make money, or we're not going to keep the doors open. And you see the talent side, who are resistant to change because they're trying to get to the next level themselves. In the middle, you kind of have Al, who I think as well, he's not too happy about, about Matt Jones, particularly. He has some very polite conversations with him about the way he talks.
Mm-hmm.
He also has to keep this show running. And in this episode, we get this great kind of middle to ending part where, the screen dies on, I think it's this episode. God, I hope it's this episode where the screen dies on Al, and he's got to produce the segment blind. And it's they're trying to fix it in this old place that they've got with this, this live crowd, and Hollywood Haley J is out there now. Like I say, she is kind of the I don't know if it was unintentional, but she's kind of the star of this show. Like she'll steal a scene that she's in, and I look at her and I think she's got every opportunity in the world. She's a good hand, as you said the other day, in the ring. She's got a great character, which is, and then they show her behind the scenes as you do for everybody. And she's very, she's very immature is the way I would say it, and she's the way that she acts, towards the bosses, towards her partner, Eric Darkstorm, and I'll get to Mike in a second, to her, what she wants versus what she's willing to give back in, and how she feels as the show goes on when she gets chastised as they try to correct her. It makes me think that she's going to be one of those talents that has every opportunity, Dave, and it's not going to work out for her in the end. She's going to get in her own way.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen to her, but that's what I get from her.
Yeah, it's basically missed it by that much. I mean, she has what it takes. I mean, if you just watch her, I mean, her mom is Maria, and she grew up, quote unquote, under a wrestling mother. So it's almost, she's learned by osmosis by watching her mom, and she has the it factor if she can stay out of her own way.
Yeah. And I don't know, Jeremy, I don't know if you if you think the same as I do, but like it, I felt like she's got the look, she's maybe got the talent that can be developed out of her. She's in an amazing storyline as the show goes along with her mom, and she's got all these opportunities. There's we'll talk about it as the show goes on every week, but one of the issues, as Mike's bringing up here, is that she smokes weed, and I have no judgment on that whatsoever. But the rule is you can't do that here or during the day when you're wrestling, because you're in a physical athletic contest, or not even contest, but other people are relying on you. And the immaturity that she shows, I thought, not only with doing it, by breaking that rule, but also in her reaction to breaking that rule, it just makes me think I wouldn't want to spend too much time, developing her if she's not going to get on board with my company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am very open about my marijuana usage, and I love to smoke. If I could, I would smoke from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed.
Right.
But I can't because I have other responsibilities.
Right.
I don't smoke I don't smoke whenever I get up. I don't smoke on my way to work. I don't smoke while I'm at work.
Right.
I smoke whenever I get off work, once I'm home. because while I don't operate heavy machinery or anything, there's people that are relying on me. And in her instance, she is putting another person's physical body literally in her hands.
Right.
And I
mean,
like that. I like that one.
No other sport tolerates it.
Right. You just got to be safe.
Yeah. Some sports are draconian about it. And, I don't know. Recently she went to a WWE tryout. We learned probably as a result of what happened on the show, and something happened there. We don't know what that was. But there you go. I'm going to go to the comments here for a second. Mike says indie promotions tolerate the weed. Some let you smoke outside before the venue start or in the locker room. That's the problem. Do it away before or after, not in between. Promoters are more worried about making friends with mark wrestlers and marks outside than saying, hey, don't smoke this right now. I thought this was funny. We've had to tell X-Pac, yo, you got to cut it down. The whole Civic Center fucking reeks.
Yeah.
I mean, so the reason that I don't mean to harp on it. It is a central theme of the show around this character.
Yeah.
And her inability seemingly to become mature enough to allow them to help her get to the next level. And she's very young. I think she's 22.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to some of these comments because Mike had a whole bunch, and we don't want to ignore Money Mike. Cash flow will retire in OVW. You get that sense watching him.
Yeah.
He hasn't made money anywhere. When he's in my area, his table has nobody. It's his gimmick, not him as a person or a wrestler. Yeah, I mean, he seems like a real solid, nice guy, and somebody you want maybe turning into a producer. Big guy, just aging out. Yeah, you get that sense that he's going to be that old veteran who just retires there, as Mike says. I put this up
into a backstage role there, probably.
Yeah. I put this up earlier, but Mike says his issue is with marketing. Al won't get it. I've had contacts message him. Al's blind to marketing. This falls on the DJ guy, Matt Jones. He's going to do a stream about it shortly. Matt is your typical Southern Charmer wrestling fan. But yes, like Jeremy said, a businessman, and he knew what he got into. One of the secondary characters is Haley J's partner, Eric Darkstorm, who Matt has some comments about here as well. Mike, rather, not Matt, sorry. He also doesn't seem, I think he's about 36, they say. There seems to be a maturity level around that character as well. But all of this put together, where you've got this business stuff, you've got Al kind of in the middle, and you've got the talent, it does set up for a pretty entertaining docuseries, especially I think in the first episode with the whole, bit at the end where Haley J is hitting people with a bag of rocks. And it could have gone, they make it very dramatic. They can't see it. They don't know what's going on. They're sending Maria out there and they're trying to stretch it out because they're trying to teach Haley about timing and stretching it out and telling the story. And, some of the scenes will have Al talking to the lead announcer, telling him things to say, as we've heard that Vince McMahon has done, over the years to Michael Cole. We
call him Flop Dollar, damn it.
Colin, that's good shit, pal.
That's such good shit, pal. I'm a genius.
And it ends up, of course, with a triumphant, a very triumphant ending to the episode around that match, and has us wondering how is this going to go over the next 6 episodes and whether or not they'll survive. So your impressions, Dave, for the first episode, what did you think overall?
Overall, I liked how they told the story, and it's setting it up that you're doing your old school versus new school, basically, that they'll have to learn to work together or nobody gets anything out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was really well produced too, by the way.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you can tell that the gentleman who did it, who's done something around cheer and I forget what else, but he's a big name for this stuff. I thought it was really good. What did you think, Jeremy? First episode.
Oh, I totally bought into it. I've already watched them all, and I'm gonna end up watching them all over again while we talk about them.
Yeah.
Very well done. Production wise, looked great. And again, to go back to when we started talking about it, I like the way that they introduced the beginning of the show, this first episode.
Right.
They immediately told you these are your main people. This is what we're talking about, and here we go. We're going right into it. I enjoy it.
It was good. It is good. I recommend. I tried to binge as much as my wife would let me. It's a bit long. Every episode's an hour. I would have thought, I was talking to Heebs online today, maybe 40 minutes would have been enough for every episode, quite frankly. But it is interesting that they show those, the business and the talent, but also that the overlying theme, I thought, it felt, I don't know, brave, for lack of a better word, to say, we got problems. And they're showing their soft underbelly, that they're not going to make it. I did think it was a little bit, this is entertainment, but it seems a little dishonest. And I say that with a smile because this is pro wrestling where everything's an illusion. That, it's all going to hinge on the big one event at the end of the year. And then if we don't sell all the tickets for the big one and show that we can make money, then maybe we have to cut down the TV deal and we won't be able to go live weekly. I think it would have been more honest if the show had said, we're hoping that the docuseries that they're filming right now saves us.
Yeah.
Because the only reason we're talking about Hollywood Haley J, other than the fact that just a great name, a great gimmick, is the fact that this show's on the air and that she got herself a WWE tryout because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope as her, her story progresses past this docuseries that she kind of finds the way towards potential greatness. But I don't know. Anything else you guys want to talk about when it comes to this particular show? Anything you want to add?
Not really.
Okay. No. Mike says, I wish in season 2, which is not yet finalized, that if there is going to be one, I got to put up Matthew's stuff. More Axton Ray, the others who weren't shown as much. Main focus was the primary people you saw, and then the people who made the cut. Yeah. Ricky Von Rocket, I thought would be a fun focus as well from that group there. The guy with the guitar. I wasn't especially interested in Eric Darkstorm, but some of those people back there were good as well. Matthew Underwood pointed out, with the weed gimmick, you got Matt Riddle, and WWE's kind of sold that with the bro stuff, and RVD basically sold pot for about 10 years in WWE, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, Matthew also said this as well. How's the biz internally? Renting venues, marketing, insurance, payroll, concessions. I'm just going to say this. I have talked Jaden into doing we'll probably tape it together, where I'm going to ask him these questions about how does it look when for all of this stuff, what about insurance? Like, what are the things that if you're opening a promotion, you'd want to know? Because I'm pretty sure that the answer is going to be you don't want to open a promotion.
It's expensive.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that stuff hopefully in the next week or so. We'll pop that up for content on the website and on the YouTube channel. One of y'all been putting over Ben Bishop on Twitter. Not me.
No, I haven't, but that's only because I haven't seen him on anything for a while. He's still got the Cobra Cup for Memphis, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he traded that in for his. Didn't he take his shot and he went down in flames against Memphis Goldberg?
Did he?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, that's one that I'd love to see pop up in the NWA. I'd love to see him pop up anywhere.
What was he 6'12" and
6'12", quarter of a metric ton, captain of the Meat Pop Express.
Yep. Yeah, he was fun. He needed a little bit of work, but he was in the right place to get it. So that would be fun. That's pretty funny, Mike. You're not wrong though about there you go. About Haley. Honestly though, keep saying like it feels tragic to me because there's something there. She's got something.
Yeah.
Anyway, let us move on to one of the segments that I like best on this particular broadcast, a segment we call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The following is a presentation of the United Wrestling Network.
It's time for Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
The best of the United Wrestling Network and all of its various forms and functions. Jeremy, what do you got for us this week?
This week we have the match of the week from Memphis. This week was the 5-star 5-way for the Memphis Heritage Championship title. We saw K Toomer versus Mike Anthony versus Uncle Mikey versus Colton Cage versus Big Swole Justin Cole. Now, right out the gate, this was pretty well telegraphed beforehand who was going to win, just because of the booking of two tag teams that are fairly new. But I enjoyed the match. It was a good piece of business. As the match started off, the two tag teams got face-to-face in the middle of the ring, and at one point, Mikey attempted to interject himself and was shoved to the ropes by Colton and Toomer. Quickly recovering, Uncle Mikey tweaked the strategy a bit and went to this Big Swole and Anthony, and this time got pie-faced into the ropes. Mikey then climbed out onto the ring apron and started working the crowd who was firmly behind him. This got the attention of his four competitors, and Swole and Cage grabbed Mikey, who was up on the turnbuckles, who, when they grabbed him, let out an impressive Wilhelm scream before crashing to the mat. As he stands up, Cage and Swole clotheslining over the top to the floor. Swole and Cage square up to Toomer and Anthony, but are quickly taken out and grab a powder on the floor as well. So the two alpha dogs, the two genetic anomalies, have the ring to themselves to square up. They grab a wrist and proceed to go shot for shot. While Anthony was swinging for the fences, his shots did not have the impact the Toomers were having. And after two shots, Toomer reversed into a ripcord spin kick. And Anthony, out of instinct, delivered a well-placed enziguri, but it was unable to capitalize as Toomer hit an out-of-nowhere cutter. As they come back from the break, Uncle Mikey landed a springboard splash to the outside on Cage, Anthony and Swole, but he didn't get a proper spring as his foot slipped at the last moment, and it cost him. The action made its way back into the ring, and Uncle Mikey delivered up a platter of gator feet to Toomer, Swole, and Colton before Anthony is able to reverse it. Anthony attempts a series of belly to backs on Mikey before Mikey was able to break loose and finally give Anthony his serving of gator feet. Mike thought they were so good he came back for seconds and thirds. From here, Mikey dropped the straps and got cage Swole and Mike Anthony for a scoop slam before K Toomer makes his way back into the ring. Mikey attempted to slam Toomer, but was unsuccessful. Toomer drove his forearm into Mikey's back, dropping him to the mat before hitting him in the face and then kicking him twice across the chest. As Toomer was about to make his move, Mikey found one more platter of gator feet and sent them Toomer's way and followed it up with a slam. Mikey makes his way up to the, followed it up with a slam. Uncle Mikey picked up K Toomer, got him off of the mat, and scooped him to the and slammed him. From there, Mikey made his way up to the top turnbuckle to only land square on nothing but mat. Mike Anthony and Toomer once again square up in the middle of the ring, but in the background, Colton Cage made his way up to the top turnbuckle. Colton took flight and hit both Anthony and Toomer with well-placed boot. As he kipped up, Swole made it to his feet and tapped Colton. I'm guessing to team up for something, but Colton clothesline. Colton threw a clothesline that Swole ducked under before delivering a Swole slam. Instead of going for the pin, though, he turned to the crowd. This allowed Mikey to go for the pin, but Swole broke it up. Mikey pulled out the in case of company serving he had put back and gave Swole his very last serving of gator feet that he had on hand. Mikey then rolled Colton up, and this time he got the 3. Uncle Mikey is your new Memphis #1 contender for the Memphis Heritage Championship. This was the only way I saw this match ending. Like I said, 2 fairly new over babyface tag teams in this 5-way against another over babyface. They could have had any of the 5 men win and the crowd would have popped, but that would have meant needing to split up one of 2 tag teams. Toomer and Anthony are involved in the program with the Roberts family, and Swole and Colton are brand new and have good chemistry together, and the crowd loves them. I still want Toomer in the title picture, but I feel that there's a better story to be told with him and his eventual title win, because he will win it down the road. Bret Michaels.
Mickey?
No, Toomer will.
Oh, Toomer, yeah.
Toomer's going to win it eventually, but I think there's a better story to be told with him. He was still very much a babyface, and I think that him making a heel turn will probably make a better story for him in the long run.
So lots of comments from in the chat for you here, and I agree. By the way, if you see, I think he's dropped the uncle, which was weird. It's just Mikey now, but to you and me, he's Uncle Mikey. So yeah. Uncle Mikey is like, physically the least imposing guy, maybe on the entire roster that isn't Brad Skimmerhorn, but
hey, you're talking about main event there.
Main event Bradley. But he's so over with that crowd. Yeah. They love him, and it's gonna be fun. They should consider putting their internet title on that guy, letting him have it for like a year.
Oh, at least,
Mike says, sorry, the genetic guy is talking about Mike Anthony. What genetics? Looks like the love child of Jay Lethal and Low Key. Guy is the build of Robin Williams. Stop with that gimmick. Listen, man, he's wearing a shirt right now. I don't know why, but he is in tremendous physical condition. Right?
The comparison of Jay Lethal and Low Key. Is Low Key? Oh, God. Guy's such a dick.
Matthew says, this is the show that needs Marquez or one of his producers to guest on this show so Jeremy can go over with them. Yeah. I mean, I've been saying to these guys, You know, I kind of got hooked on Memphis when Jeremy got me hooked on all of the UWN, and it's lost something. And I think it was for me when the opportunity for K Tumor to step into the number one spot was just like it's fine that he didn't win. It's not that I'm boo-hooing my wrestler didn't win, but it was just so garbage the way that he got. It was nothing. It was just blown off.
And now Barnabas isn't even there, or not Barnabas, but Maurice the Strong isn't even there now.
Right.
You know,
Mike Anthony, who I used to laugh with Jeremy, like, who is this guy out in the playground yelling at people, right? In the beginning. That guy, when like they did that promo, the two of them, why they're a tag team? Like, they're the two best guys in the company, Mike Anthony and K Tumor. But that promo when like K Tumor was like, when you and I are a team, we got each other's backs, but when this goes down, sure enough, as he says, it's going to be me. Mike Anthony goes, okay, like I get that, and I want you to know. And then he loses his shit in a way that it seems so legit that you'd go, I'm sorry I bothered you. It's like, this is my title. It is my company. It is my time. I'm going to destroy everything in my way, including you. And anyway, I thought that was the best thing for me on Memphis this week. But Matthew says, I've watched Gresham and Aldous in Memphis, a few others. I know AJ wants to get down there to run a show. Oh my! Like many tumors, that should have been biopsied.
So, to a little side note to Matthew Underwood's comment. There was a little bit of back and forth on the Twitter machine between AJ and Dustin this past week over comments of AJ saying that people in Memphis are hungry for good wrestling.
Yeah, we're talking for AJ Kazana, guys. For anyone who doesn't know.
And I gotta say, he's not wrong, but in the same instance, that's a marked territory already. They've got Dustin is very I don't want to say territorial, but he got tagged and was real quick to, hey, we've got good wrestling. You need to watch what in the fuck you're saying, essentially. He did not back down, and that's one of the things that I appreciate about Dustin and Dave Marquez.
Yeah.
They don't take any bullshit from anybody. They don't care who you are, how long you've been in the business, what they are making their own way and doing it how they're doing it. And to step on somebody's toes like that, Dustin's got reach in Memphis. I'm not saying that the Kazanas shouldn't come to Memphis, but show a little decorum. Territories are territories, and each person's got their own. I don't think Dustin would have been like, oh, it sounds like Knoxville's in need of some good wrestling.
Yeah.
Dustin would have never came out and done anything like that.
It may have been just a faux pas. Like I don't know if there's any malice behind it, but it wasn't right. You're right.
No.
Yeah. So what happened in the rest of the UWN this week?
And from Championship Wrestling presented by Car Shield, we got best of this week. We got a good little mix of matches from some of the top guys of Championship from past. We got to see matches from Willie Mack. We got to see matches from Eli Drake, L.A. Knight, Sean Stricker, whatever you want to call him. It was a nice little mix. I didn't get the notes written down on who wrestled who, unfortunately. My week was kind of busy as well. I will say this. We probably will be seeing some best ofs. I don't know for how long, but I know that for the immediate future, we're getting best of shows for Championship Wrestling presented by Car Shield. don't sleep on these. There's reasons why they're best of matches and some of their top talent from the past. Check them out. If you're not watching championship wrestling from Hollywood, your kids hate you, your mother doesn't respect you, and your father thinks you're a sissy boy.
Wow.
All of those things are true. Well, Dave Marquez, Jeremy, posted this up on Facebook a couple of days ago. Championship Wrestling in Espanol, going to markets in New York City, LA, Chicago, San Fran, and 44 other markets. They are appearing on Estrella TV starting winter 2023. There's Jeremy's dancing. They got themselves a TV deal.
I'm going to hire Jay as a personal translator. He's been using Duolingo.
That's right. Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that there are people who would say, you know, but it's a Spanish-speaking TV station. This is a good move, and it is not the first time that wrestling has appeared on a Spanish TV station and been successful.
And there's a hell of a lot more Spanish speaking and watching fans than people realize.
Right.
The Spanish channels get huge ratings.
Yep.
So
and
this is a great move for them.
I don't have, how do I say this? Peripherally, I believe that this settles some of the noises that we've kind of been hearing about maybe there's problems over there with some of the filthy lucre. You know, that this may have been a bit of a white knight situation. I don't know anything about that in details, but I think this is a way for them to move forward.
Yeah.
So that's great. And all the best to the UWN, which we know and love. Thank you very much, sir. Let us pull this gentleman into the forefront right there. As
the greatest mind in the business.
Here you go. As we move into his segment, Dave Scooby Fantasy Booker, or as we like to call it, I respect you, Booker Man. He has an NWA logo, though. There you go.
Yep.
Win, lose, or draw, Dave. After NWA saw win, EC3 and Thom Latimer. What happens to Mr. Latimer?
Well, like you said, he either wins, loses, or there's a draw, being a DQ. In my opinion, it's too early for Thom to win. He's giving up the TV title already. This storyline needs to run for a while to build the 10 pounds of gold up. And I think EC3 is the person to do that, being that EC3 is running Exodus Pro in Cleveland already, is also working with OVW. So if they can get some crossover, we can possibly see Thom travel to Kentucky, maybe. It's not that far away from where they live up near Clarksville. OVW, this could show some crossover. There's a lot that OVW and the NWA have in common. And I think if they were allowed to work with each other, whether it be for the weekly television of both NWA and OVW, it helps out both sides. Now, if what happened with Thom? Thom would need to, in my opinion, chase EC3 for a while. Not a long while, but at least a while. We're just a month into EC3's reign as the NWA champion. He needs to get a couple more defenses under his belt to raise the stock of the 10 pounds of gold. If Camille is going to be involved, she will possibly need to get a manager's license to be at ringside for the pay-per-view. But the other person that I could see being involved with the Thom and EC storyline is Bully. Bully put over Thom as the future of the NWA. Does he need to return and help Thom reach this prophecy of becoming world champion? Also, Bully trained Camille, so everything comes around. What goes around comes around. Bully also dealt with EC3 back in the day, about 10 years ago, roughly, at Impact. They've had tables matches. They've had Texas death matches. It all feeds into a storyline that can be built to build up everybody involved. Plus, if you watch any of the OVW programming, Dixie Carter was recently on their programming to push the EC3 Goddard storyline. Bully has some past with Dixie, who is EC3's storyline aunt, if you haven't followed TNA and Impact. Dixie was put through a table by Bully. So there's a storyline that can feed into what happened in the past with TNA, NWA. Thom was also Bram back in TNA days. So everybody does have some kind of history, Billy included. So could the NWA and OVW blur the lines and get Billy and Dixie involved as well? And then your wild card, October 28th, Matt Cardona's match has been canceled.
Oh, man, that's right.
So either
saw
he
that today
and goes after the quote-unquote title he never lost. He interferes. He and EC3 either team up, or you have I'm not saying a three-way battle in ring, but a three-way battle for going after the championship. That you have two other guys that are wanting the championship. If Thom and Camille team up, it'd be a great way to bring Stephanie in, Steph DeLander,
right,
who is the partner of Matt Cardona.
right.
So it would be a battle between them to go after the 10 pounds of gold. And in that time, EC3 still can defend the title out on the indies and also be shown on OVW television with the 10 pounds of gold.
Right. You know,
so there's a lot happening, but if they choose to go any or all directions, there's 2 or 3 storylines that they can interweave with each other and then bring in the past. Everybody that is quote unquote involved one way or another has had their foot in TNA/Impact Wrestling. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you know, those are some really incredible thoughts, actually. You know what, just to bolster some of that, you had that interview last week on Power with Camille, you know, coming out and talking for Thom, right? And saying, you've been politicking since the Dixie days, haven't you, Ethan, right?
Yep.
And really drawing that connection. She dropped the name, you know.
Yep.
EC3 on at least in one iteration, Ethan Carter III. Or the essential character, I guess. But
and I mean, it's one of these things of, I mean, if you can use the past, do so. I mean, the NWA is built on legacy and tradition, but they were also part of Impact when they first started. It was TNA, NWA back when they were doing their weekly pay-per-views. So it's one of these things of everything intertwines. If everybody can play nice, you can make some money out of this. It's just
Right.
be willing to work with each other for the betterment of everybody involved.
Matthew Underwood has a few comments here. Bully and Tom versus EC3 and Cardona.
Oh, why not? I mean, they both have grudges against each other.
Yeah.
I'd like that match.
Yeah. James Storm is free that night too. He points out for October 28th. Is it October or November? October. Sorry.
October.
Yeah.
Y'all hear me all the way in Baltimore and Toronto if James Storm popped up.
Oh yeah.
I'd pop so hard for that.
Well, he's the 1PW champion, right? And he I think that's what it is. It's 1PW, isn't it?
I believe.
Yeah.
Cardona said something like, I'm not going to make that show now. What else? Yeah, Storm. Some great thoughts there. So, this is a good one too. Jeff Jarrett had a pretty decent match on Dynamite. He and Jay should be in the Crocker Cup. Absolutely give him a spot. Is he the type to be an olive branch between NWA and AEW? What do you think, Dave?
Yes. I mean, he's worked with both, and it's one of these things of I'm not sure if willing to put egos aside, everybody could work with each other. And if so, I mean, they could do almost like a big super clash, back like they did back the Chicago days of AWA. So in doing so, I mean, they could bring in, you don't have to have storylines cross over. You could just have a big super card with the top talents facing each other on quote unquote the grandest stage.
Right. Wouldn't you love to see Jeff Jarrett walk down a ramp and, I mean, eventually lose, but point down at the 10 pounds of gold? And I remember this. How many times has he been champion? 5? I don't even remember.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah. I love how Jeremy comes on. He'll be like, I like that point. I'm starting a rumor that Jeremy is Jaden.
No, I'm not Jaden.
You're Dr. Zirconium?
I can neither confirm or deny that.
There you go. Dave, excellent as always. Thank you so much.
Thank
Guys,
you.
let's get out of here. Dave, where can they find you on the social media platform?
On X and Instagram at Dave Scooby, and over on TikTok at Dave Scooby, followed by the number 1.
And Jeremy?
You can find me on X at HJWOTS and on Threads and Blue Sky. And yeah, that's it. Championship Wrestling Jeremy. And if you follow me on Threads or Blue Sky, I may get a notification about it. I don't know. I get no traction on either one of those. So
there's nothing happening on Threads yet. I mean, there's really, really famous people who are like, here's something I'm doing. And there's like 20 likes. Like that's,
yeah.
It's like, I'll put up, hey, 24 years ago today, Gary Steele won the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship in a 3-way match. And I get just like not even a tumbleweed rolling across Threads. So
yeah.
I can't fit, by the way, Blue Sky on here. We've run out of characters, so I gotta.
It's all good. It's all good.
Hey, Jeff was a 6-time NWA World Champ. They had a discussion recently not too recently, but on the Alliance guys about whether or not he was good for the NWA at the time. I maintain that he was. He was the right guy to have that title as much as he did at a time when no one else could be relied on. Thank you, Retro. We're going to get out of here. Oh, you can find me at the Alliance Gold. I'm going to be doing something big soon. Big, big, big for me. So that's the only teaser I can do right now. But
cool.
By the way, as we go into Thursday night, talking about the OG Alliance guys coming on 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, I caught a 45-minute clip because I did not listen to last week's Alliance guys program. So Jay has started putting out these clips of the program on. I listened to it on Apple Podcasts, and it was the Alliance guys explode, and it is Jay and Jaden and DKM, all the best of friends. Everything's fine. They were going at each other. It was a three-way, well, kind of 2-on-1 really, but three-way dogfight where they got a little bit heated. It is worth the listen.
So good.
Yeah, and
just passionate. It made me proud. I think I even put it in the chat while it was happening. It's discussions like this and emotions, the love of professional wrestling that each individual Alliance member brings to the table that makes me proud to say I am an Alliance guy. Other Alliance guy, but Alliance guy nonetheless.
We're going to have to, I don't know, we're going to have to like kayfabe something up between the three of us. I don't like your beard, Jeremy. What do you think about that? I don't know. We'll work on it off camera. Gonna make some shit up. I don't know. Just to compete.
Don't work us into a shoot, brother.
This was, I guess, from last week or the week before. I know Dave.
Last Thursday.
So look for, if you're on Apple, Mike, or I'm sure it's on Spotify. Look for the Alliance guys explode.
Yep.
But they're on. It was an argument, by the way, about whether or not there was value with the NWA and teaming with ROH back in the day, and a couple more intricacies about who can draw and who can't.
Yeah.
And a real difference of opinion that I thought everybody had a good point in. So they're here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's J. Cal, DKM, and Jaden. And then, of course, J. Cal's back on Tuesday, every Tuesday on the hour before Power, with the pre-party to run down what's going to go on that night.
Too sweet to be sour.
Too sweet to be sour. The views expressed by Jaden and DKM are their views alone. What's that, Dave?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right. That's it, guys. That's it. That's all. Thank you for being here. Until next time, we'll see you.
Jaden's related to Eagly.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.